your bio.
Okay.
Hi, this is the most literary corner, Parrot TV, literary corner, Parrot TV, literary corner, Parrot TV, literary corner, literary corner. Brought to you by New York Parrot. Hi, this is the most amazing collection I have read so far. I'm a readingaholic. Dustin Pickering, you know me from Parrot Literary Corner. This is the Literary Parrot, available at Amazon.com and its various affiliates. If you have not seen this collection, it's 249 pages of glorious global literature in a contemporary vein. This covers a lot of subjects from the coronavirus to violence on the streets to love, to romance. Everything you can imagine is in this collection, and you should buy it now. I'll tell you why. It's a collection of unique voices from the Literary Parrot. People have been on our show, have participated in this, or have been published on our website, newyorkparrot.com. So please, I implore you, buy a copy. Thank you, and please return.
Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Hello, welcome to New York Parrot's Literary Corner. I'm Dustin Pickering, your noble and honest host. Today is an excellent day. We have Damon Freed, who is an artist who cherishes balance, reason, and ambiguity, and he expresses it through a variety of working methods, from abstracted realities to non-objective paintings of grids. He believes reality exists on the edge of perception. And while his dad has been his best and greatest influence, Agnes Martin and Bryce Martin's work are among them. He received his BFA from the School of Visual Arts in New York City, where he graduated with honors. Freed taught at two places for 10 years at the college level. His first year was in 2009. His MFA is from Hunter College, City University of New York. Freed has studied with such luminaries as Jack Whitten, Marilyn Minter, David Chow, Juan Sanchez, Sanford Warmfield, Toby Kahn, Lucia Pazzi, Tim Rollins, Alice Aycock, Susan Krill, Anton von Dalen, Susan Anker, Donald Cuspit, Katie Siegel, among others. He has been exhibited in galleries in New York City, St. Louis, Kansas City, and Columbia, Missouri. In writing, his influences are his mother and father, sister and brothers, and friends, mostly. His inspirations are his family and dearest friends and the people he meets in every direction. Freed has not been formally trained in poetry, but is an avid writer of works in spoken word. He has 9 books of poetry published, self-published. He has been published by the Writer's Place Online and by the Rye Whiskey Review. You may find his collections of poetry in the Sedalia Public Library as well. He may be reached at damonfreed@gmail.com or visiting his website online. Good afternoon, Damon. It's glad to meet you, and I hope you're having an excellent day. Thanks for coming on the program with us. How is? Yeah, wonderful. It's wonderful. So I'm curious. My first question is, why choose to self-publish? There's a lot of publishers out there, so I'm curious why choose to self-publish.
In the beginning, I knew no other way.
Mhm.
And in the beginning wasn't that long ago for me. I started, but since then, control, I suppose, over the product. I think that's a big point for me. Also, between painting and poetry, I invest all of my time. I'm a full-time studio artist and writer. So I think going between the two, one has to give sometimes. And late, certainly the poetry has taken over. And hence, my submittal to, for instance, the Whiskey Review that you mentioned is that just happened, very recently. So did The Writer's Place. My first book of poetry was published through my gallery, my dealer in St. Louis. But yes, to come full circle, I suppose,
Mhm.
so to speak. Um, I don't know if that answers it the most clearly, but you know, I think control is probably why I do it that way. It's
Aesthetic
easier for
control.
me, yeah. But it doesn't mean I'm not open to publishing with others. It just hasn't happened yet.
Right. That makes sense. I think you definitely have more control, and if you're pretty good at marketing, I think it really doesn't matter if you have a formal, traditional publisher behind you. If you can get your work out there, I guess that they say a lot. The work is on that end, on the marketing side, is a lot more on the writer's end way. And so, do you find that marketing
Yeah,
for you, like what they call marketing, is
right.
difficult?
It is difficult, especially when we just have online, and I mean, in person a little bit more these days, but rather limited comparatively speaking, right?
Hmm.
Given the pandemic. So, um, yeah, we're limited to Zoom, chats and things of this nature. James Bryant here in town, who you've had
Hmm.
on as a guest before, has hosts SpoFest. I read for him last week. Um, things like that, help
Right.
spread the word and to get our work out into the public's domain. Thank you.
So, what was your experience with SpoFest, and do you miss live performances?
Oh man. I'm dying for a live performance, I mean, I love them. It's invigorating. I tell you, it's also exhausting.
Hmm.
It can be, as you well know, I'm sure
Hmm.
yourself.
Hmm.
And James's platform is amazing.
Hmm.
He does a wonderful job, as do you, Dustin. Um, you know, I think these things support us during these times and will continue to move forward and to evolve.
Right, and I like really appreciate the live events, but the Zoom events, I don't know, I wouldn't say they were a substitute really. How do you feel about
Sure.
that? I mean,
That's a
obviously they're
I'm
not
I'm glad you
really.
make that point for me or to me. I'm glad you make that point to me because I get caught up in that in thinking bipolarly sometimes.
Mhm.
I am bipolar, but with a schizoaffective tendency. That's my diagnosis as a human being here on this earth,
Right.
and um, so sometimes my thinking is in polarities, but I try to bridge the gap, and
Hmm.
so I think yes, you're absolutely correct in that it's not either or. It's more of an and when speaking about poetry reading live, pairing it with online, and you know maybe even at the same event sometimes, depending whether you're in a museum or whether you're you know out of doors reading to the public that way. Um, Zoom.
Right.
Yeah. So,
And thank you, Julie, for your comment. So she
yeah.
says Damon is fantastic. Julie Molo.
Thank you.
Uh, so
Thank you.
thank you so much, Julie, for participating in our programming today. Uh, so, what are your views of reality, and how does your painting express that?
Um, so early on in college, I developed a worldview that. So I've written two books entitled Twinism, which pertain to my worldviews, plural in those books, because I do go into, but to keep it simple for people, early on, I was exposed to color in a way that I had a realization, an epiphany. There is a phenomenon in color that is referred to as simultaneous contrast. Two colors appear as one color, the same color. Um,
Hmm.
what I realized through that process, I believe, if I maybe I knew of this kind of train of thought earlier, but it was fundamentally understood when I saw two colors appear as one, that there's a metaphysical reality to life,
Hmm.
something beyond, but at the same time, that metaphysical beyond, that reality, can be tangible through color.
Hmm.
So, what I physically apply to the painting um, through my process can create something that is tangible to the eye and the brain system, but not to and and not to others, right?
Hmm.
Subjectively speaking. So what I see standing perhaps in proximity to someone else or to you, Dustin, what you see on the screen and what I see on the screen have maybe there's differences.
Hmm.
I imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say so.
Right. So
Mhm.
that's a fundamental view of reality, I would say, is the belief in subjectivity.
Interesting. So you find that view that this maybe the same image can have multiple texture, or not, maybe not textures, but multiple layers to it, as
Yes.
far as viewing it, and that plays a fact that kind of plays a role in your art. Does it also come into your poetry?
You know, absolutely.
Hmm.
Because I can't speaking of that word control, I can't control your anyone's perception of what it is that whether they read it or am reading at a live reading here today, their feeling, their felt response is just that, I think. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
So it's a matter of the guttural reaction, to the art.
Yeah.
Uh, you're not. Are you trying to portray a certain reality or your own reality, and just people are anticipating and viewing it in a certain their own light?
At times I get caught up in myth a little too much.
Hmm.
Creating a persona. I think I'm guilty of that at times. I have been guilty of that.
Hmm.
Associating myself too closely with figures of the past, maybe at times,
Hmm.
or the present, and or. Um, so I'm guilty of that, Dustin. But of course, now I think that's how I'd like to answer that one.
Hmm.
I'm a little lost off topic there. It's like my brain shut
Quite all
down.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens to me sometimes, And
Okay.
speaking of subjectivity, sometimes you just kind of like walk out of your own reality, I guess
I
you could
think so.
say. You
That was a
just kind of take a
difficult one.
break. Hey, let's just go over here now. I'm going to McDonald's while you can continue talking. My brain's going to
Yes.
McDonald's for a little bit.
If I'd like to direct the viewers, if I could, to the painting.
Excellent. That's really interesting. Yeah, that's quite fascinating.
You get a
Somebody
little
says Damon
scale.
writes in color. A Facebook user said, "Thank you, Facebook user, whoever you may be." Damon writes in color.
Yes. The
Interesting.
anonymous
It's an
user.
interesting, yeah, very interesting concept, and that reminds me of it, like the
Thank you.
bottom of a CD. That's what makes me think of is like the CD when you have the light striking it, and the
Yes.
light, and there's sort of like a kind of dual pattern going on there because there's like it's not just that one
Yes.
circle. There's another kind of
Yes.
underlaying it. I'm sorry, underlaying it, that kind of gives it a little bit of a interdimensionality to it. So it's pretty interesting. That's one of your
Thank you,
paintings.
Dustin.
It's very nice. It's very colorful and it's like a
Yes.
visual
Thank you.
very stimulating.
I did make some notes, about that this specific piece, but
Huh?
I won't. I'm not gonna. I won't bore your viewers to death by reading literally my notes. Just that it is called the Spectral Wheel of Colors, Moon.
Okay.
You
Well,
can
thank
see
you, Rick Christensen, for commenting. He said he's a good friend of yours, Rick
that's right.
Christensen.
We are.
Excellent. Yeah, he's a good guy. I like Rick. Yeah, thanks for sharing that painting. So, what writers would you say influenced your thinking the most? Is there any particular line of philosophy that really strikes you in the writing field? Like, for me, it's Nietzsche. I love Nietzsche a lot. Yeah.
Oh, um, I guess that was the one early on for me too, Dustin.
Uh-huh.
What's I read The Gay Science at a certain juncture with a prelude of what's of poems that with a something in
Mhm.
rhymes and to butcher that uh, if he's shining down on me now. Um, but there is one that I
Subjectively,
yeah,
he's shouting
subjectively,
down and
right.
subjectively.
Oh man, yes.
Yeah.
Something
Mhm.
about pursue the sun while walking in the shade, he said.
Mhm. Wow.
And I don't know if that's me to a T. I think I spend too much time in the sun, in
Well,
the light. But
maybe we all kind of sometimes do.
yeah,
It's an experience. It's an artistic,
thank you.
process. I think, being in the light, quote unquote. We use that as a metaphor, I guess, for like the truth or any number of other things, or like some blinding
Right.
vision perception that's just like immense and bigger than ourselves.
I agree.
Quite interesting. When did you start painting? Why did you feel compelled to do art, like visual art?
Through my
My
dad,
dad. Hmm.
my parents. Of course, the support of my mom and the gift of my dad, I suppose, is so. When gosh, as long as I can remember, Dustin, I
Mm.
started drawing at an early age. I drew this, kind of pissed off, angry, rather. I was frustrated, as a
Mhm.
child, and I drew this, and my mom, I think, still has it, but it's a drawing of her, and yeah, so I was a mess on that day, I suppose. But that's why we do what we do, right? And that's why I imagine, as parents, let us or command us to do what we do.
Right.
Get it out, Damon. Get it out, you guys and
When I was a kid, I used to do
girls.
paint by numbers on the bathroom or the kitchen floor. I used to just do those, like that kind of helped me become more patient, I guess. So
I wondered. Yeah. Huh.
in the bio, you mentioned like about 3 or 4 words that are like a
Yeah.
kind of a value system at the opening of the bio. I wonder what those mean to you.
Yes. So in that order, I suppose is uh well, the one, so in reverse, I don't want to say them in reverse. Something about well, eh, how did they go, Dustin? Can you remind me there? In
Uh,
which order?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, one
Okay,
was
balance, balance. You
balance,
did it.
and
Yeah,
that was one of them. Yeah, I remember that one
balance,
clearly.
reason, and ambiguity.
Yes.
Um, balance is the bridging of the gap between
Hmm.
reason and non-reason.
Right.
So I cherish all three if they do exist, and I don't. If they do exist separately, as they might, they very well might. Balance then is what I do as an artist. Um, you know, Taking my avoir, my
Hmm.
the poems into consideration, the paintings into consideration, all of it. It's a voice. So and with many different tangents. Some that have been cut off over the years, others haven't, and continue to move forward with it all, because I see it that way for myself, as do others. Yeah.
So, do you have like a writing ritual or a specific time of day you sit down to write, or like a discipline per se, where you say, okay, every day I'm going to write 20 minutes, or I'm going to write a couple of poems a day? Is there any sort of, I would say, like I say ritual? It could be, you could call it discipline, ritual, whatever,
There may be
feels.
there may be a subconscious quota there that I
Hmm.
that that I that I have to reach by the end of the month. You know, I just kind of and if I don't, then I'm bent out of shape,
Hmm.
out of sorts. You know, I'm bent out of
Right.
sorts if I don't. You know, so I try to meet that, whatever that is. That's I can usually feel a certain pressing on me, of a weight that from inside that I need
Hmm.
to express, which is funny because that's a word the famous colorist Joseph Albers hated. Uh, Self-expression, this idea, and through poetry, I think. Well, through art in general. I mean, my painting. I mean, not to get too sidetracked here, but
Hmm.
it's important, I believe, because emotion is important, and emotions are important in the work, and viewing the work, one experiences a certain range or gamut of emotions, as you
Hmm.
might say. So self-expression is not. Maybe it was a unfashionable back then to give him probably credit where credit's due. But he was quite the disciplinarian,
Hmm.
as a teacher, is my understanding. Um, of course, he. Uh, so yeah, I like the idea of. Well, we can move forward if that's okay with you.
Well, all right. What are
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on the concept of authenticity? And authenticity is like
yeah.
it's a very much a part of the artistic circles. And what does it mean to you?
That it's a synthesis and also a getting to know yourself. Um, that it's the most original are it. I have this notion, right? This thought, rather. I'll call it
Hmm.
a thought because I think that's more pure. A thought. My thought is that inspiration is that deepest part in us, and ideas are on the surface of things. Maybe it's the other way around. But that's
Who
my two
knows?
cents, you know.
Right. Right. So we're going to take a brief break, and then we're going to come back with some poetry from Damon. Thank you for sharing them with us already, what you shared with us. So we're
Thank
going
you,
to go.
Dustin.
Hi, this is the most amazing collection I have read so far. I'm a reading-aholic. Dustin Pickering, you know me from Parrot Literary Corner. This is the Literary Parrot, available at Amazon.com and its various affiliates. If you have not seen this collection, it's 249 pages of glorious global literature in a contemporary vein. This covers a lot of subjects from the coronavirus to uh, violence on the streets to love, to romance. Everything you can imagine is in this collection, and you should buy it now. I'll tell you why. It's a collection of unique voices from the literary parrot. People have been on our show, have participated in this, or have been published on our website, newyorkparrot.com. So please, I implore you, buy a copy. Thank you, and please return to the show. Literary Corner, Parrot TV, Literary Corner, Parrot TV, Literary Corner, Parrot TV, Literary Corner, Literary Corner. Brought to you by New York Parrots. Hi, we're back with Damon Freed. It's we're talking about his poetry. So go ahead and share a couple of poems with us.
Okay, thank you, Dustin. I will
Welcome.
present East Village 2003 for Betsy Baker. The perfect weather is about 47 degrees, and we have good heavy jackets on. It's nighttime, just after dinner, and all the lights are glowing and magnificent. The car lights and the warm tungstens bathing the streets from the interiors, and the reflectors on the bicycles are there. And the lamplight and the smell of hot food from the good restaurants. And there's the smell of fresh chocolate and the wafting of street food on the corners. And it's cold out, but we're hugged up, and she's holding on tight, and we just might stop for coffee, then go to St. Mark's bookstore for some affordable and haughty entertainment and deep conversation. I'll look through the philosophy section and read her a poem before we leave, maybe something wise from Emerson or a passage from Plato on love. She'll look through the design books and I'll kiss her for it. And we stroll, just getting lost in that steamy city air. And the sirens are dampened in the distance, and the train cars roar, but it's a roar of passion. And your spit mixes with her spit, and your blood mixes with her blood, and it's enough to set the whole damn majestic city on fire, and you love it, but you love her most, and you miss it, but not too much, because it's still so very alive in your souls.
Wow, that's incredible. There's a lot of senses going on, a lot of like vision,
Thank you,
imagery, and you know, smells and sights, and of course you got in the bookstore you're reading, and it's also a really intense experience of love and you know, act of love in that poem that you convey very well. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Rick Christensen, for saying it's a lovely poem. So thank you, Rick, for participating
Thank
today.
you, Dustin.
Go for it. Let's go for another one.
Okay. Thanks, Rick, out there, and thank you, Dustin.
Mhm.
John, I have this friend who's extremely intelligent. There's little he doesn't know about in this world. He's an intellect, and when he plays guitar and sings, his heart is splayed out in front of you. You're privileged to have been a witness if you've seen him play. And each time I say, Jesus Christ, he says, where? He owes me money. And every time I laugh, and it's a guttural laugh, because if there's anyone I know on God's green earth who has suffered more, hurt more, been depressed more, been high more, been alone more, been spit on more, it's him. You see, God doesn't hear all of us like they say. Some just pray and continue to be shit on. I'm not one of those. So as it is, my laugh goes all the way to heaven and rattles God's forgiving ears. And he says to me, what is it this time, Damon? And I shout, God, my friend says your son owes him money. And God responds every time. Then John sings again and plays his guitar. And it sounds like money.
That's a kind of parable of sorts going on in that poem. I love it.
Very good, yes.
Intense, and it's true to life. I think, in my opinion, that's true to life. I mean, it seems like people who suffer intensely also can have great talent and great worth, intrinsic worth in their artistic pursuits. And I think that poem really speaks volumes for that sort of experience of being in a, you know, in a room with someone
Yes.
who has an immense gift for music, for instance.
True.
Absolutely beautiful. Do you have another
Thank
one
you.
you'd like to share?
This is the last poem, or wait,
Mhm.
yeah. So Amanda is the title of this poem. I'll just share it.
Okay.
Thank you. We drink wine and eat bruschetta. We discuss life and all its beauty. I take her virginity gently. She smiles. You are the right one, she tells me with a whisper. The years pass. I never let her in, not all the way. You're a bastard, she thinks, but never tells me. I think of her often. My God, she could dance, and what an ass. We're too different, her and I. She's friendlier and sensitive where I'm not. I'm focused on myself and obsessed with accomplishment. I blew it long ago. She got married a few years back. I cried in anger. I threw things pissed drunk on scotch in solitude. I never told her this. I was too upset with myself. I'll send her this poem, I think. You see, I never have the balls to commit. Not to anything outside myself. I'm less interested in others than I am in myself. It's a disease, I think. A fucking nightmare. But it's starting to work out. I'm delusional enough, finally. I think I'm a genius. I think I'm God's gift to humanity. I feel, too. Like I've at least been myself. Like maybe a loving relationship wasn't in the cards for me. Like it was my first dream. But that God took it from me to see how well I could manage alone. Like maybe I was born to do this. To come up late every time. To write it down. To paint it out.
Another one that's very true to life, and it feels I get the impression almost of Kerouac in some of the way you use the way it flows and the sort of situations you present and the way you present them. I get a sensation of like reading Kerouac, to a certain extent.
Okay.
Somebody
Maybe
describes it as
a
meditative.
resonating.
Yeah, I think so. They're like I guess the anxiety of influence they call it. I don't
Yes,
know.
well, it could be. My mom had a workshop with Ginsberg back in the day, but
Mhm.
I other than that, I'm removed from him. And my buddy Brian Autry once turned me on to Kerouac's October in the Railroad Earth, and
Mhm.
I've listened to that on many a night, many occasion. So there is influence
Does it put
coming
you in a
through. I know.
meditative state?
Oh boy,
Listen to that.
indeed, a somber yet a fall state of mind, of course, but yeah, meditative indeed.
I have a kind of generic question that, of course, is a matter of opinion. What is an artist's duty to himself, and what is an artist's duty to the society in which he is encompassing?
Mm.
Opinion.
To himself, he or she better know themselves.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not going to venture to tell one how to get to know themselves better, other than being honest with themselves
Very
and
tough.
just being honest. What was the next part, Dustin?
Duty to society.
I've encountered this question before.
Hmm.
Yes, it's a good question. Always, it's a very precise answer. Um, Nothing.
Now that's actually counterintuitive. I mean, you would think that we have to change society and fight whatever. That's a really interesting answer. Just to say nothing. We have no duty to society.
Our responsibility is to ourselves,
Hmm.
thereby through the artwork and it's experienced.
Right.
Therefore, we serve now. Okay, now if we have families, and which we all do,
Hmm.
there is, there are engagements, there are responsibilities that way that we must engage in day-to-day life, and that's real. But
Right.
um, and those are responsibilities that must uh, be maintained,
Hmm.
and for connection, for love. Um, I hope I didn't lose everybody with that answer, with that response.
You didn't
There's
lose
a
me. I
there's a
totally understand what you're saying. It's
okay.
really the back to the authenticity question and the question of being true to yourself and being self-honest. I mean, some people may say that the artist has a certain kind of duty, social duty of some kind, to, I don't know, fight injustice or voice the masses, or whatever. There's so many different takes on that.
And
Thank you,
that
Brian
was
Autry, for the comment. Fantastic reading, my friend, says Brian Autry. Thank you so much. And thanks to Cam Sales Como, I believe that was the last one. Yeah, and somebody
thank you,
says
Brian.
great answer. And then that is a great, that's actually a very wonderful answer. Cam Sales Como, wonderful reading. Damon is a very talented artist. Thank you so much for your comment. it's just, you know, because I think, and especially in this day and age, it feels like there's so much pressure
Thank you,
to
Dustin.
be an activist in society, to be an intellectual, or to be a, you know, and now you kind
Yeah.
of go back into the Socratic, you know, feel of just being true to yourself and being self honest and being the examined the unexamined life is not worth living. I mean, and I think being true to yourself, you're also true to your society. I think there's a sort of like a bridge there. What do you think?
Well, are you this? Are you this way in life to a degree, or I'm wondering if you yourself, Dustin, can. Well, this is unlike me, out of sorts, to ask, a
Mm-hmm.
question of the interviewer.
Right, all right.
I'm
Free to answer.
growing. Are you that way? Also in life
I mean, I feel like, I mean, I don't feel like,
as an
you know,
artist,
when people say like an artist should be out smashing racism, or, you know, I think that we
right?
can, things like that. It's not my thing, really. It's really not something
Same,
I feel competent to do. It's not something that I've been
similar.
affected
Yeah.
by. But I do feel like it, you know, voicing the voice of history, like talking about in your work, you know, what's going on around, you know, around you, and writing about, say, some of the things happening around you is something, you know, I do, and I can do it, to
Yeah.
record as a matter of subjective perspective.
But is that something that you're told to do by society,
No,
or
not
is
really. Not
oh,
really.
very good, very good, very good. So that's
Yeah,
that's an
it's
inner
just
drive. That's an inner,
right,
yeah. I have that impulse too at times. So to answer
right.
maybe some people's other questions about my nothing response earlier,
Mhm.
um, hopefully that can soothe them a little.
Yeah, and I don't think society at large really expects anything of the artist. I mean, we do live in
You're right
conflict
there.
in certain ways, you know, and I think if somebody says Dustin points at truth. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
and I think that's definitely going back to, you know, to truth, as we just mentioned, you know, really the self honesty and wanting to be oneself authentically can sometimes be in conflict, and sometimes
Right.
with the reality we live in. You know, it's like they want to tell you, people fill you with messages in life. There's
Oh
so
man,
many, and they're like,
so
you got
many.
to buy this product, you've got to watch this
Yeah.
news story, you've got to be involved in this
Write this
campaign.
word, this
Yeah,
letter.
it's frustrating. It's tiring. I just shut it all out. I'm just like,
Oh man.
nope, nope. Not gonna tell me what any of that.
Good
And
for you. Oh,
yeah, it's frustrating. It's
it
very
can be.
tiring.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing. That's actually a very simple, direct statement. Nothing. Just you don't owe
Nothing.
anybody anything.
As in
Life
the
doesn't owe me
yeah.
anything. I don't owe it anything. You know, I think there's a great statement by Mark Twain that says, "The world owes you nothing. It was here first." And my response is that, well, I don't know anything either. So it's a mutual feeling. Well, thank you for joining us. Do you have any last statements you'd like to share with our viewers? You know, anything to say to fellow artists and our people out there watching you right now that, you know, you would like to say a couple of words of advice, maybe, or, you know,
Yeah.
some hopeful, you know,
Yeah.
good words, wisdom.
Um. I. You know. Yeah. I. You know. Take a little light from that painting back there, and carry it into your days if you can, if you may. Uh.
Excellent.
Yeah. That'll be it. Go outside and enjoy the you know if you can, if you can. I mean, we're all kind of hurting, I think, for those in New York, but do your best. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love them.
Thank you,
So
Julie Schuler, for saying thank you, Damon. Interesting insights. So thank you for participating in the comments, Julie.
thank you.
So, and also, the last step here is, do you have any people, any friends, family, fellow fans you would like to thank or say, give a shout out to on the program?
I think I'll leave it at as is.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. It's been wonderful speaking with you today,
Thank
Damon.
you, Dustin Pickering.
Thank
Thank you.
you so much. It's really interesting to get to know different takes on life and different takes and artistic and poetic grasps of life and what people believe and feel and think in this reality we're living in, especially since we're living in an undocumented amount of misery right
I appreciate total misery and well, I don't know about total, but a lot of it. And I thank you for your correspondences, Dustin, over the last couple weeks. And I just want to be genuine here in signing off. And I want to thank your programming for doing a superior job often. And thank you all.
Thank you, Damon. It's been wonderful. It's very pleasant talking with you. This has been the Literary Corner, brought to you by New York Parrot. You can donate at paypal.me/nyparrot. That's a wonderful PayPal account that we will be using to improve our programming. If anybody would like to donate any amount, we would greatly appreciate it. Well, thank you very much. And you can get in touch with me at this, where you look at the banner below, Literary Corner at newyorkparrot.com. Leave some comments on our YouTube and our Facebook. Just tell us what you think. We're looking for 1 million subscribers to this channel. So don't forget to share this with your friends and family and fans and everyone out there who appreciates the arts. We want you guys to subscribe and get those notifications when we put up a new video or when we go live. So thank you very much. I'm Dustin Pickering, and this has been New York Parrot Literary Corner. Have an excellent afternoon. Hi, this is the most amazing collection I have read so far. I'm a reading-aholic. Dustin Pickering, you know me from Parrot Literary Corner. This is the Literary Parrot, available at Amazon.com and its various affiliates. If you have not seen this collection, it's 249 pages of glorious global literature in a contemporary vein. This covers a lot of subjects from the coronavirus to violence on the streets, to love, to romance. Everything you can imagine is in this collection, and you should buy it now. I'll tell you why. It's a collection of unique voices from the Literary Parrot. People have been on our show, have participated in this, or have been published on our website, newyorkparrot.com. So please, I implore you, buy a copy. Thank you, and please return to the show. And Literary Corner, Parrot TV, Literary Corner, Parrot TV, Literary Corner, Parrot TV, Literary Corner.